Hello, dear class, and welcome to our 7th lecture series on financial accounting or principles of accounting subject. And I'm your instructor Jamal. Hi there. So today we are starting a new chapter named Internal Control, Internal Cash Control, and the treatment of cash. So from now on, we are going to talk about the treatment of balance sheet items. So this chapter is all about cash and cash equivalents, which is the first liquid asset under category of assets. So remember the balance sheet equation, which is equal to assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. So this is the balance sheet equation, and under assets we have categorized the asset into current assets and long-term assets or fixed assets. So under current assets, first one is cash and cash equivalents, and then we have inventory, account receivable, right? And short-term investment as well. So all these we will talk about in separate chapters. So today is the day we talk about cash and cash equivalents. So number one, LOS, which is learning objective, is that describe fraud and its impact. Because cash is very sensitive asset, and I can say that the most important items or most important control in a business. Since cash is involved, so there is a fraud as well. So what we call fraud in terms of accounting language, let's talk about that. Sorry about that. So fraud is an intentional misrepresentation of facts made for the purpose of persuading another party to act in a way that causes injury or damage to another party. So fraud is a huge problem and is getting bigger, not only in just the United States, but also across the globe. So fraud has exploded with the expansion of e-commerce via the internet as well, right? We have seen some kind of like trading fraud, insurance fraud, credit card fraud, identity theft, check forgery, right? And then Medicare fraud as well. Your medical is insured, so what you do, you go to the hospital, make a fake certificate and claim the repairs and damages, right? So describing the fraud and its impact. So there are two types of fraud that impact the financial statements. Number one is misappropriation of the asset. So example of asset misappropriation include employee theft of inventory. This is the most common. And then bribery or kickback schemes. And then overstate of the expenses reimbursement as well. Your company said that you are eligible to stay in 5-star hotel, right? During your visit, you go and you check into some normal 1-star or 2-star hotel, and then after coming back, you reimburse and you state that, okay, I claimed that I stayed in 5-star hotel, right? So this kind of fraud is called, okay, let me just switch off this voice. Okay, the other type of the fraud is called fraudulent financial reporting. So this type of fraud is committed by companies, managers who make false and misleading entries in books. So these kind of frauds, they deceive investors and creditors. So the purpose of this type of fraud is to deceive investors and creditors into investing in or loaning the money to the company. So they might not otherwise have invested or loaned if they have seen this financial reporting. What they can do, they can show that, okay, we have inventory 100,000. Instead, the inventory was just 1,000. For example, they purchased, let me just change the screen type. For example, on because we know that the more the inventory is, more are the assets, right? If inventory is 1,000, your assets are increased by 1,000. But if inventory is increased by 10,000, 100,000, then your asset size is 10,000. Which means this balance sheet equation, this shows the worth of your business. The more is, bigger is the magnitude of this equation, it means this is the worth of your business. So everybody, every business wants to show its maximum so to the investor so that they can invest in our stocks, or if we are asking loan, so the banks can see our financial statements, because banks, they don't have much time to go and investigate every assets on the balance sheet. So this type of fraud is normally conducted by managers of the company. So tell me, which fraud is more dangerous one? Anyone?
I think the first one, because I don't understand why you will pump up your, how do you say, your invoice. Because I think you want to, one is you want to rob the company, and the other one, I don't know who you want to rob. Because the company will reimburse you if you spend a certain time or amount of money on hotel. So I know this is for your own purpose in the first shim, like the first example. But the second, I don't know why would you lie on the assets and inventory.
Okay. Any other? Any other? Do we have Chandra here?
Yeah, what was your question again? Which is the most dangerous?
Yeah, which one is the most dangerous one? We have two categories of fraud. One is this misappropriation of the asset, and then fraudulent financial reporting.
Maybe fraudulent financial reporting.
Okay, what is the reason behind that? Why you picked the second answer?
Because I believe so. That's sure.
That's what you got feeling, right?
Because I believe so. I'm not sure. Sorry.
Okay, how about Jackie?
Yes, sir.
What is your thinking on this topic?
I'm confused.
Sir, I have a question. The second one is in order to sell more stock option on the market. The second one.
No.
It's only okay. So this information is for
you. Basically, we call this name
cool.
Cooking the books, or window dressing.
Oh, I get it. Huh.
Right? So let's talk about that. So misappropriation of the assets, their magnitude is small as compared to the magnitude of fraudulent financial reporting. Because you still have invoice, If theft of money, because most of the money is not into company's vault, it's in bank, right? And then bribery and kickbacks, it's also very small. Overstatement of expenses reimbursement, like I told you, you stayed in 1-star hotel and you claim 5-star hotel, bill. So that's, of course, that's not a fraud, or fraud is a fraud. But the most dangerous one is fraudulent financial reporting, in which you deceive neither just customers, but also investors and creditors. You ask loan of $10 billion and based on fraudulent financial reporting. Look at the magnitude of that one. $10 billion. And here, only maximum you can do 10 million, 100 million, 500 million, that's it. And an employee can steal some kind of like furniture, computers, fixtures like AC, right? Can, steal some kind of like trucks, cars. But here, the deception is huge. You show fake reportings and you ask investors to buy my stocks, buy my shares, and you get huge money. $1 billion, $2 billion, $10 billion loan. So now I ask again, which one is the dangerous fraud? The fraud that costs the company most is the
Second one.
financial reporting. Okay. Now the next logical question is that what are the fraud and its motive? So we categorize the fraud into a triangular. Its impact and fraud. So so we call the fraud triangular through graphical representation. So the causes of fraud, number one, is motive. For example, so it results from either critical need or greed on the part of the person who commits it. And why is that? Because you believe that if some persons who commit fraud are already rich by the most standards, so why don't I also commit that? So number one is called motive, in which it states that the CEO is rich. Why don't I get rich? Because I work more than the CEO. This is the motive as well. The second one is opportunity. Oh, sorry. The opportunity. The opportunity to fraud, it usually arises through a weak internal control. For example, you are not segregating the duties. For example, the person who is receiving cash, also responsible to submit